So very nice that we can all get together today and reflect. Let us just do that much today. We're not going to learn anything further. From all the names that I see over here, I see people who have been studying for some time. Is there anybody who is here for the first time today, a very first day lecture? All the names I see seem to be people who I know.
Yes.
Who is that?
Vishal, ma'am, Vishal Singh.
Vishal. Okay, this is your very first lecture, Vishal.
Yes, ma'am. I'm attending lecture of the Lakshmi Ji in Delhi.
Okay. Okay, so it's not your first lecture. You're exposed to these ideas and from our group only. So, um, so I wouldn't put you as first day. You've been studying for some time.
Yes, since a long time.
Oh, okay, great.
Doing
So
the
then,
e-learning also.
oh, wonderful. Okay, so that's great. So then, obviously, you're definitely not new.
Yes.
So, anyone else is new? Okay, so wonderful. So now let us, all we're going to do today is reflect together in the hope that we will be on the right track. So we have this, you all have received, or you all anyway have the book. So you have the pages that we are going to reflect upon. In the edition that I have, it's the page from 77. If you don't have the same edition, then open chapter 5, the topic chronology of action.
Janki ji, page 88 in the new books.
Okay, in the other book, in another edition, it is page 88.
94, 94 in my edition.
Okay, 94 in another edition. But anyway, easier, just open the topic page, the chapter exigency of action, that is chapter 5. And the topic chronology of action. Okay, so anyone is having a problem with that? If you've not found it, tell me, otherwise we continue. So chronology of action. So all we're going to do today is just reflect together. Okay, so let's start again with the first line. Action is a symbol of life. Action is a symbol of life. As long as you live, you act. The moment you read the second line, you must understand the association of this line with the first line. The first line says, action is a symbol of life. As long as you live, you act. Can anybody tell me in just one word, what is the association of line 2 with line 1? What is line 2 doing? I mean, if you're getting confused by my language, let me just put it a little easier. What is line 2 with reference to line 1? Just one word answer, please.
Explanation.
Excellent, Akhila. So now you have identified that line 1 and line 2 are saying exactly the same thing. There's no difference. Right? So now don't look upon it as two different ideas. It's just one idea. Action is a symbol of life means what? Wherever there is action, there is life. As long as wherever there's life, there is movement. As long as you live, you act. So as long as you live, there will be movement, there will be an action. Same thing. Both these lines are the same thing. Now that you figure out these two lines are the same thing, you need to figure out, is this true? Is it true that as long as there is life, there will be movement? Now think about it. As long as there is life, there is movement. Is this a sentence which is universally true? Or is this a sentence which is true under some condition? If it is universally true, then you must take it as is. And if it is true under some conditions, then you must know under what conditions is it true. What is this? Okay. No, Preeti, nobody is seeing me. Not just you. No, but nobody is seeing me. The video isn't on. So for some...
Can we have the text on screen at least?
Sorry?
Can we have the text on screen?
Text on screen. Everybody has the text with them, right?
Yeah, but as we study the lines, we can maybe highlight the lines so that we concentrate on them.
No, does everybody want that? Because I prefer to see everybody's faces so I know what everyone's doing. So if everybody, do you all want to see the text on the screen, or do you all have it?
You're okay.
No, Janki ji. You're okay.
Okay, so it'd be better for me to see people's faces because then I know what is going on. When you all look blankly at me, I know I have to explain. And if you're not, then I know I have to continue. You understood the point. So it's little visual clues are useful. So what have we got? First line and second line are saying the same thing. And what is the point it's trying to make? The point it's trying to make is that wherever there is life, there will be movement, there will be activity, there will be action. It's the only point it's making. Now, you think for yourself, is this Sanatana Dharma? Means it is always true in all situations, or is it true under a few peculiar situations? Because there are two kinds of truths in this world. Some which are always true, and some which are true under some situations. And you need to know what type of truth you're dealing with. Because how you're going to deal with that truth will depend on, is it a universal truth or is it a conditional truth? For instance, take something like, we have class every Saturday morning at 10:30. Is this a universal truth? No, it is not a universal truth. It is true under certain conditions, such as the teacher is alive, such as there is some student available in the class. Then no student available in the class, how can this class go on, right? So it is not a universal truth, it is a conditional truth. Now see this line. Wherever there is life, there is movement. Is this a universal truth or is this a conditional
Universal.
This is a universal truth.
Universal.
truth? Everybody would say it's a universal truth. But think about this. Does an egg move? Is an egg alive? And if it is alive, does it move? So therefore, every sentence that you ever read will always be within some parenthesis. As a matter of fact, there is a movement in an egg, but you can't see that movement. But if you stop and think about the ideas a bit, the first time somebody contradicts the idea, you won't get carried away because you will know the answer to that. And if somebody does contradict the idea, then you're happy to hear the contradiction because somebody has just pointed out something which you had not thought about. You're happy to hear people contradicting you. I'm very happy to hear people contradicting you. Because when people contradict you, it gives you a chance to reflect better. And incidentally, from this, you'll know why there is such a strong, what should I say, such a strong culture of tolerance in our country. It's coming from this root idea. You have no debate, you have no resistance to contradiction. That's why in India, I always say contradictions rampant. Okay, so what have you done with the first two lines? Firstly, you figure out that the first two lines were saying the same thing. Then you figured out that this seems to be closer to a universal truth than to a conditional truth. Why do we say that it's closer to a universal truth than a conditional truth? Because people could argue with you. They could say that even in a dead body, some movement is on. You could argue that even in a stone, there is movement taking place. You could argue, right? You can argue about these things. But still, notwithstanding all these arguments that people could put across, as you look upon life, you will see that life truly means movement. And when that movement stops, the end of life cannot be very far away. What could you derive from this? What would you derive from that? Think about it a bit. What would you derive from this idea?
When
The
movement
action
stops,
is our
life
dharma.
ends.
Sorry,
When
say that
movement stops, then life ends.
yeah, that's what it says. So what would you derive from it? What is your conclusion? What is your derivation? What further thought do you have on this? Kirti, why is it saying Kirti? Is that not Jyoti? You're Jyoti, no? You're coming anonymous, Jyoti, today. What's happening? So tell me, what were you saying, Jyoti?
You are on mute. You are on mute, Jyoti.
Sorry.
I think you're having an internet issue. Okay. In the meanwhile, Srinivasan, since activity is inevitable.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
I said action is our dharma.
Yeah, okay, that you can say, but you're only paraphrasing what the book said. You have to derive further. So what would you derive from this? Life is equal to activity. So what can you derive further? Don't paraphrase that line, just derive something. So therefore what?
Can I say, Janki ji?
Yeah, go ahead.
This means that what I derive from it is that action takes place only as long as there is life in us. When the life ends, there is no action, voluntary or involuntary.
This is an explanation of the line. This is not a derivation.
Can we say to live means one must act?
Okay, you can say that. Let's see what is being written here. This is gone now. Oops. Okay, one second. Let me read what's written over here. Since activity is inevitable, how could I do better? Very good. So this is one way of thinking about it further. In activity is inevitable. I'll have to do something. So my question should always be, how can I do a better action? Or should I do a better action? Or what will happen? Does my quality of action make any difference anyway? As long as I'm alive, I'm going to act. So will the quality of my action make any difference? So that's how you start deriving things. Action is not optional. That is correct. But what's the derivation from that?
What kind of action could I perform?
Yeah, you can say what, therefore I have. So that proves I have to do something.
So I have to think about my action before I act. I need to think.
Yeah, I don't know whether you would derive that, but you can certainly derive that. So does the quality of my action matter? Anyway, as long as I'll be alive, I'm going to act, right?
Yeah.
So does the quality of my action have any relevance? And if so, what is that relevance? So that's your derivation from it. What you tend to do normally is you're like just repeating stuff you know. That is not called reflection.
Correct.
90% of people are constantly just repeating something in their mind which they already know. The purpose of reflection is to learn something more. Who's that chap? His name, Larry Page. Was his name Larry Page? He used to ask in his meetings, so tell me something I don't know. Why are we going on and on? And there's a Sanskrit phrase that says, Pishta means you, what should I say? You're grinding something that's already ground. जो आटा बनाया है उसी को चक्की में डाल रहे हो. Why are you doing that? It's a waste of time. So, what did you learn further? Your reflection has to tell you something more than what you already know.
How should we act?
Huh?
How should we act?
How should we act? Does the kind of action you perform have any relevance? Is a definite question you should ask, right? Because okay, you have to act is a given. So then, if I have to act, then I am going to act anyway because I am alive. So is that enough? Or do I have to control this action in some way or manner? Okay, so what else? God's presence is everywhere and in everything. Srinivasan, what has that got to do with life being equal to activity? This is not a derivation from that. This is just another point. True or false, we'll have to think about, but it's got nothing to do with the current point, which is life is equal to activity. Yes, our actions should be different types. We should choose actions wisely. We make most of our actions to ensure good living. Don't say all these things because these are not derivations. These are your opinions. A derivation is what can you get from this line, that life is equal to activity. What can you get from it? You can say life is equal to activity, so I don't really need to bother about anything because as long as I'm alive, I'm going to act anyway, right? So why should I be bothered?
I think because our good action, ma'am, brings good results. So probably we have to be proactive that way, Be aware before you do something.
Yeah, but now you're jumping the gun. Reflection means slowing down. Slow down. You're just on life is equal to activity. That means I'm going to act anyway. Whether I like it or not, I'm going to be acting.
Janki ji, the quality of our actions determines our happiness?
Yes, but now this is an opinion, right? This is not a derivation from this. You will have to follow some logical flow of thought till you come to the sentence which you have just said. Otherwise, you're just making some random statement. So,
can we say if I must act, then what should my goal be?
Yeah, you can say if I must act, then why should I have to choose my action? Or what should my action reach? Yes. Should I have a goal? Because I'm going to act anyway.
Yeah.
All that this line is saying is you're going to act anyway. Because as long as you're alive, you're going to be acting.
How should I act?
Yeah, okay. So first you ask yourself, is it even important to ask this question? How should I act? I'm going to act anyway. As far as this line goes, it's determination, right? As long as you're alive, you will act. So ठीक है ना? I'm alive, I will act. So क्या?
Janki ji, what is the purpose of my life?
Yeah, okay. You can derive, but you must have a connection between your derivations. Otherwise, you're just going to state some opinion. So say, start with your first line. Activity, life is equal to activity. This is your line 1. So what is your line 2 from here? What do you want to say from this line? Don't talk about other things in the world. Just from this line. You can make a whole bunch of statements which come just from this line.
Another way of putting it is, how should I act to make my life better?
Yeah, okay, you can say that. So should I choose my actions? What is the way to choose actions? Or is it not necessary to choose actions because anyway I'm going to be doing them? You have to think this thing through. How do I act? How will my
So do my
actions
actions determine how my life will be?
Yeah, you can ask this question. And ask the question. Ask yourself the question.
And the consequences of the
action. Ask yourself any question from this derivation, but don't go away from this basic idea that life is equal to activity.
Otherwise, what is a right activity for me?
Yes. Should I even ask the question that is there a right activity? Because I'm going to be acting anyway. So do I need to even think about this? Think about it. I'm not answering questions here. Y'all are not asking questions here. Y'all are just getting the idea of how, when you listen to something, how you can derive or not derive an idea from. Are y'all with me so far? Anybody has a problem so far?
Janki ji, the derivative can be a question or a statement to ourselves.
Yes, of course. It can be anything. It's your reflection. All that is required is there is a connection between line 1 and line 2. And you know what that connection is. That's all that is required. Because as you can see, many people, as they do this, are just saying something they already know. Sarah, if therefore the quality of my action determines my happiness and opinion, however, therefore the quality of my action is important, is that a derivation? No, not yet. You have to establish that. Therefore, since I'm going to act anyway, would the quality of my action determine the quality of my life? This you have to derive for yourself. You see, today, if I have to ask you what is life, what is the contribution philosophy is making to our life is this. If you were to ask yourself, what is life? How would you have answered that question? Philosophy is telling you that what is life is answered by the word activity. Would you have given that answer?
Janki, could you repeat what you said? There was a network issue either from my end because I didn't hear what you said, the last word.
Okay, I'm repeating from the beginning. The contribution of philosophy to your life is this, that it gives you a new perspective, a new vision on life. Suppose you had been asked this question, what is the symbol of life? What is life? What would you have said? You would have given things that your life is made up of, such as money and family and happiness. You'd have said all this, right? Philosophy is telling you that life is activity. This is a deeply relevant statement. Life is activity. Because you have now understood this, you are asking the question that will the quality of my actions then determine the quality of my life? Because so far, that's not what we think. We think the quality of our circumstances determines the quality of our life. He has told you your life is activity, and thereby forced you to think of this idea that if life is activity, firstly, is that true? Is it true that life is activity? And if frighteningly it is true that life is actually activity, then why do I talk about my circumstances being my life? Why would any of my circumstances determine the quality of my life? In class, it is all very good to say, you have all said that how my action should be, and then my life will be so good. But is that really what I believe? I don't believe that because I've never thought it through. Still, I believe that a particular circumstance, a particular situation is determining my life. Now you see how reflection helps. Do I get to choose my actions? Very good. Good question. Do I get to choose my actions? Yes, ask it. Do I get to choose it? You can choose and you can think in any way. See, reflection is your free thought. You can think in any way. All that is required of you is, what is the only thing required of you in reflection?
Stick to the main idea.
Yeah, that there has to be a connection between line 1 and line 2. A real connection, not random statements picked up from here and there. Is this getting clearer for y'all, or are y'all just getting more confused?
Janki ji,
More confused.
Okay, tell me.
Could we also ask, like here is one is, do I get to choose my action? How do I choose my action? The flow from here, could it also be that what if I am forced to perform an action? Or what if I perform an action thinking it to be right, but it is later I realize it is not right? Does this come in the flow?
Yes, but pretty further away, because at the moment all you're establishing is that life is activity. So
Yes.
first you have to establish, is life activity? That's your first step. If you establish that life is activity, then you'd probably go on to saying, okay, so do I get any choice in this activity, or does this activity determine the course of my life? Things like that. But your first step is always, is this true? Firstly, what is the point? So put the point down briefly. In this case, if you have to put this point down very briefly, what would you put it as?
To live, one must act. How do I act?
What is the briefest way you can put it down?
Life equal to activity.
Life equals activity.
Very good. Life equals activity. Now remember, you put equal to. Equal to. You understand what is equal to, right? If
Yes.
you have claimed that life is equal to activity, think of what a big thing you have claimed. Don't go past it and say, okay, I understand. This is very simple. You have to act. Don't go like that. Go slowly. If you have claimed that life is equal to activity, if this is your claim, then realize what you just said. That means your life is dependent on your activity. Is that what you think it is? Dependent on your activity? Or do you think it's dependent on my family and my children and my son has come from overseas? What do you think? You can't be saying one thing when you're studying and saying another thing when you're living.
Janki, can I ask a question?
Yeah, Kennedy?
Can we say the action of others determine my action?
You can say whatever you like. It is your reflection, right? Nobody can interfere with what you're saying.
But that could be one of the aspect of my actions, right? It's not always me doing the action. Others' actions also affect my actions in some way.
If you accept, firstly, it's not really relevant at this stage, but even if you were to accept that statement, if others' actions are affecting your actions, then what is affecting their actions?
My actions, maybe.
So whose actions are we talking about?
This is me that we
If
are
I'm not living in a vacuum, neither are the people around me, right?
Yeah.
Janki ji, can I ask a question?
Yeah, go ahead, Aditi.
So, Janki ji, as you said, you're free to think whatever way you think. What if the statement, therefore, the quality of my action determines my happiness, is actually what you have experienced and felt? Is that still a jump?
But you're not talking about what, you're not here to think about what your experiences are. You're thinking about this sentence. You're thinking, is it true? If it is true, what is its repercussion? Never mind your personal opinion, your personal things at the moment. You may have experienced many things or may not have. That's not relevant. The only relevant thing is, at the moment you're saying life is equal to activity. So what do you understand from that? And what do you derive? What do you understand from that means, what does the sentence mean in your mind first? Then is this meaning that you have given the statement true or false? And if it is true, in what way is it true? Universally true or true under some circumstances? And finally, therefore, what is the derivation from it?
So, Janki ji, during reflection, I do a lot of examples. So, I guess this all comes from, then is it better just to not stick to the examples, because then this automatically comes? It could be your example, or it could be somebody else, or a few more people's examples that you look at.
That is okay, but first you follow the procedure, then you see. If you've not followed the procedure, you will not even know if this example is relevant to that, to the point or not.
Okay.
So if you said life is equal to activity and then gave an example of how people's activities determine their happiness, this is irrelevant because there's no connection between line 1 and line 2. First to derive it, no?
Okay.
Then you can start giving examples if you so desire. Examples pro it and examples contrary.
Okay. But how do you know that that is the derivation? Because here a lot of things look like derivation, but you said they're not derivation.
You will never know that, frankly. You just do the best you can. And then 2 years later, when you look back on your text, you will realize what was I deriving from what. Okay, so don't worry about being right because there's no such thing as right. Clarity is, let us say, coming onto a very narrow little string. And to get onto that, to be walking on that string, you need to first know how to walk. And then comes walking on that string. It's like, those acrobats, they walk on that string high up in the sky somewhere. Assume that is somebody like Einstein or something. Now, we can't do that. Because Einstein will in a second tell you that you're not even on the point. If you talk to Swamiji very often, you think you're giving him a very good line of thought, and he'll say, like, are you people insane? He won't say, are you insane? But his look and his general attitude is, are you insane? Because he can't understand why would you even see any connection between this and this? He's walking on that tightrope up there. We are trying to walk, we are trying to crawl somewhere. We are on all fours at the moment. How we look at a child walking is how clear people look at us. They're like, are you mad or what? How can you even think that is? And that's why, more developed people look upon us as children, because at some stage they figure out you're just crawling on, on all fours. So question of walking on that string doesn't arise. So we need not worry about this. The child does not worry or walking about on that string, right? The child's job is to get from all fours to 2 feet. That's what we are going to do.
Okay,
and we can only
Janki.
do this with our own effort.
One last question then. Is it important to revisit your reflections?
In due course, they will come back because it's the same thing you're going to be reflecting on.
Okay.
And then you're going to one day say, my God, what on earth was I talking? What was the point and what am I talking on?
Yeah, true. Thank you, Janki ji.
Janki ji,
Hmm.
if we are not convinced by a particular statement, then what do we do?
Then you share it.
Okay.
But first is, before getting convinced or not getting convinced, you must figure out what the sentence is really saying.
After that, if we are not convinced, we can shelve it.
Shelve it, of course.
Okay.
But Janki ji, what if the comments are interconnected? Then you have to shelve the entire sub.
It depends on what, I mean, you'll have to see whether you can accept the part which you are accepting without accepting the part which you're not accepting.
Is that
It's
possible?
of course, it's very simple actually. It's so mathematical. Suppose you say, for instance, take this whole concept of God. Okay. Suppose I'm accepting the concept that he's all pervading. That I'm accepting. But I'm not accepting the concept that God doesn't have a form. In such a case, you'll have to decide which one you're taking, because they're two mutually exclusive. So you'll have to figure out, can you take the part which you're taking without taking the part which you're not taking? For instance, initially when I joined, most of what Vedanta said sounded very true to me. But this whole business about being born again didn't seem right. And I kept trying to keep the parts that I wanted and removing the parts which I didn't want. I figured this was not right, it's all nonsense. And I worked out every permutation and combination by which I could figure out how I could keep the parts I wanted and remove this one. And I could never do it. The equation never matched. You had to put it in. Otherwise, you would not have a full philosophy. And I struggled with this for years, and I gave up and I decided, look, if I have to take it, I'll take the whole thing or I have to dump the whole thing. But I wasn't willing to dump the whole thing, so then I took the whole thing. Because I couldn't figure out any other method by which all of this will hold true. So you have to figure that out. It's very easy, to have opinions. The tough part is to have the reason behind those opinions. Something sounds good to me, I take it. Something doesn't sound good to me, I throw it out of the window. That's easy. You figure it out. Remember, never forget that what we are studying is the result of 10,000 years of people thinking about it. If there was rubbish, they would have removed it. That doesn't mean that everything is correct. We will still have to examine it. But please remember that you're studying something which has been examined by intellects brighter than us over centuries. Again, that doesn't mean we have to accept it. It just means you have to remember that if I'm willing to take things and dump things, I better think this thing through properly. Okay?
Yes, Janki, thank you.
Janki, I have a question.
Yeah, Omkar?
We spent our time thinking on these two sentences. Action is a symbol of life, and as long as you live, you act. And we saw that we could come across various derivatives of those two lines. However, on further reading, we understand that the main idea is completely different. He's talking about the fact that your actions come from your inherent tendencies or something to that effect. So all of this seems to be thinking in a completely different direction, whereas he's trying to point to something completely different. Isn't it?
Yes.
So why are we spending so much time on two sentences? I mean, on an idea which is not what he is even referring to in the subsequent sentences.
Very good, Omkar. Now you try and figure that out. It's a good thing. This is how you reflect. Why are we talking about this? This is exactly how you reflect. Why are we even bringing all this thing in? Is it relevant? Can you answer your question for yourself?
No, but we are talking about a methodology of reflection, right? And it seemed to me that you're suggesting that we dissect almost every sentence or maybe two and try to get to the root of what the main idea is.
That's right.
The main idea is very different on further reading.
Yes, so please figure this thing out. Don't expect me to spoon feed you because I'm not going to do it. When you start getting derivations of this idea, okay, let's see now. How do we put this? Vedanta is almost mathematical. When you understand an idea, you will begin to predict what the author is going to say next. Because he has very little alternative but to say that thing. So if your reflection is going well, every question that you raise will be answered in a subsequent thing. You will initially go all over the world. It is okay. Don't worry about it. We are not fine-tuning. We're just learning what to do. That we step back from the text. We understand that line 1 and line 2 is saying the same thing. You also understand what kind of derivations we can get from it. It doesn't mean we chase every rabbit down its hole. But you understand what kind of derivations you can get from it. Leave it because you're only on the first line. And now let's go to the second line. Please understand it. Unless you know derivations from a thing, you haven't understood that. You haven't understood a line unless you know how to derive it into something. Now, whether you derived it correctly or not, as you read, you will know. But please don't forget to derive. I hope the process is clear. I think nowadays I'm falling in love with this process. For everything, we need a proper process. How do you get married? Here is the process. How do you manage your finances? Here is the process. How do you do reflection? Here is the process. I don't know whether this is what created confusion for all the religions in the first place, because at some stage the teacher says, "Arey Baba, I've got fed up explaining, just follow this process." And then after some time, that process becomes some kind of religion, and anybody who doesn't follow that process is a very bad person. So I hope we don't do that. Please understand that this is just a help for us to be able to move along the tracks of intellectual development. You're in a Vedanta class for intellectual development, not for any other purpose. You're not here to learn some new information. You're not here to pat yourself on the back because you're so good and you're a Vedanta student. It's for intellectual development. As you develop intellectually, you become mature spiritually.
Janki, I have a question.
Yeah.
So people who develop intellectually and become more and more mature, do you think that they will have very similar ideas like mathematics when you come to the same answer, or is it related to the vasanas?
Even in mathematics and high levels of maths, you don't come to the same answer. It's only in the beginning that 2 plus 2 is 4 and it's also simple. That is just like KG class. In science and maths and any of the intellectually developed subjects, people are not, all the experts are never in agreement. It's not possible. In fact, in How Do You Know What You Know, there's a whole chapter dedicated to why do experts not all think alike. No, we'll come to that whenever we reach there.
Then Janki ji, how will we ever know that we are reflecting quality of a reflection?
The buck stops here. There is no external yardstick. This is one of the lessons that is maturity. There is no external yardstick. You are the final determiner of what you did. Is it good or is it bad?
So Janki ji, the experiences then determine what experiences you're having in your life and your state of mind? Whether the reflection is going, can that be the yardstick or that cannot also be the yardstick?
No, of course not. You could be taking drugs and feeling great. How can
Not
that
in
be?
that sense, Janki ji, like if you're reflecting.
Okay, so stop. Not in that sense means whatever you just said was a highly conditional truth. So please find out under what conditions that may be true or not. Making statements is always easy. Backing up those statements is what is the tough thing. I'm sure any one of you all in the class can explain whatever is being explained. The problem is always backing up whatever you're saying. In fact, they stopped saying it now, but earlier all this team used to tell me, we could also take this class. It's quite easy. Only problem is the answering the question. Okay. It is very easy. It is stating, if you're in a classroom setting, the poor students have no option but to listen to what you say, right? They have to gulp whatever you say. So what are they going to do? They have to just shut up and listen. And they are usually under the impression that they don't know anything, you know everything, and something like that. So they'll just listen to whatever you say. So it's your job as a teacher to tell them that that's not true at all. And they are the final determiners of what is true and false. No external source will tell you what is true and false. You will decide this for yourself. Now, deciding it for yourself, easy. Doing it correctly, that's the tough part. Any fool can get up and say, no, this is my opinion. No, very good. Yeah, I don't believe this. Okay, don't believe it. If you remove this one piece, what happens to the other piece is a question you have to ask yourself. Okay, so let us go to the next slide. The type, okay. Action is a symbol of life. As long as you live, you act. The type of action executed differs from individual to individual. It depends upon the inherent cause that produces it. The root of action is one's inherent nature. Every human being is distinctly individualist. His inherent tendency, inmost nature, is known as varsity. So now see these lines. The type of action executed differs from individual to individual. So how will you do it? Now you tell me. How will you do it? What's the first question you'll ask?
Does the type of action differ from individual to individual?
So your first question is?
Why does it differ?
The first question is?
Is the statement true?
Is the statement true?
True.
This is your first question. Is it true? Life is equal to activity, correct? So all these things who are alive are active. Okay, got that. Now all these things that are alive are performing activity, correct? And all this activity that they are performing is different, correct? Correct, right?
Yes.
I hope you get it. What does it mean? That everything that is alive is performing different activity. So will my husband perform the same activity that I do? No, right? How can it be? How can anybody be in this world be like me? Each one of us is different. All the activities that we perform will be different. I will do something different, you will do something different, our spouses will do something different, our neighbors will do something different, our children will do something different. Is that not true? Every live human being or being for that matter does something different. So first question, is it true? If it is true, is it true under all conditions or is it true under some conditions? The sum total of everybody's actions is different from the sum total of everybody else's actions. However, some actions may be similar, and some actions will be different, right? But the sum total of each human being or every being's action is different from the sum total of everybody else's action being different. So that's obviously, then why are these actions different? So you'll derive. Now you see, which is the question you'll ask, oh, they're all different. Why are they different? Firstly, is it true that they're different? Oh, it is true that they are different. Even if you learn so much, right, you won't have a problem with any other being in this world. You will not say things like, oh, but I don't do that. What is that sentence supposed to mean? I don't do that. Obviously, you don't do it. You're not that person. And yet you'll say, but I never do that. Okay? That is derivation. And as you're deriving, you may ask the question, why do we do it? Okay, now that you asked a question for which the next few sentences are going to give you an answer, you have an inherent way of knowing that your reflection is going in the right direction. Because if you are reflecting on the words of a wise person, he's already anticipated that. If you're doing the Gita or the Quran or the Dhammapada or something like that, Bible, something like that, which are not just random, somebody woke up one day and said something, but are the result of somebody having done a lot of work before they wrote the first word down. Then if your reflection is correct, you will find it headed generally in the same direction. And that is a sort of inherent check. That doesn't mean it has to go there, but you will be amazed at how frequently you will find yourself saying something and then finding the next thing is answering.
Janki, I have a question.
Yeah.
So, like Aditi asked, how do we know we are even reflecting in the right direction? For example, this paragraph read just by itself gives me an idea that I am almost a slave of my vasanas, because my vasanas will give me the thoughts that will convert into actions. Whereas I started off believing that I could determine the quality of my life with my actions. Now, these are two diagonally opposite ideas. One idea tells me I'm almost a slave of my vasanas. The other idea tells me that I could choose my actions. Now,
listen, stop.
Sorry?
Listen, just listen to what you're saying. I am almost a slave of my vasanas. I could choose my actions. There are two sentences that are saying the same thing.
No, I'm saying they are two diagonally opposite.
No, that's not. Stop. Go slow. The first rule of reflection is go slow. I am almost a slave of my vasanas. Write it down. I could choose my actions. Are both exactly the same sentence.
Not clear as to how.
I am almost, underline the word almost. I am almost a slave of my vasanas. Underline the word almost. I could choose my actions. Underline the word could. Now can you see it?
Almost means I'm not completely a slave, and I could means I could means I have some degree of choice.
That's right. There's a possibility in both sentences. You're saying the same thing. Pay attention to what you're saying.
Yes, but it's going round and round. Right? It's not giving me clarity.
No, it won't, because you're not spending time with it. You're not able to still identify that they are saying the same thing. If they're saying the same thing, then how can they be going round and round? They're saying the same thing. The possibility of choice exists. Both your sentences are saying that. Your sentences. Life is not very difficult. Just slow down and think about what you're thinking. I don't know if this was a total exercise in futility. Did you all find this useful, or was this an exercise in futility?
Useful, Janki.
Very useful.
Absolutely
Janki.
useful.
Very useful.
Very useful.
Janki ji, can I ask you something?
Yes, please go ahead.
When we use our intellect and decide on an action, it is more appropriate. But as you mentioned, we act according to the circumstances. That is when we let the emotions overcome us and we take action, we perform action and take decisions. And then half the time it's right, half the time it's not right. And then we suffer. But how to use the intellect all the time? It's not always available.
That's what you're studying. No, learn to reflect. Once you learn to reflect, you will learn to use the intellect. It's like saying, I can't lift this weight because I don't have the strength to lift it. I'm saying, build your biceps, please.
Yeah,
You're telling me, but I can't lift it. I'm saying, build your biceps. You say, I can't lift it. I'm saying, build your biceps. This will go on forever.
Yeah, learning for the last, I think, 19 years. I've been with Shivendra ji, Alok ji, and now with you since last year.
Oh, okay.
Come a long way, yes. But still, lots need to be learned. Lots.
That's true for all of us. It's not true for you alone. It's true for all. But let's.
In fact, I asked Swamiji once when he came for a lecture series here in Delhi. I said I was a very happy person till I joined the classes, because the Gita I knew was perform your action, good action will get good result and bad action will get bad result. So refrain and do your duty. But after I came here, I'm confused. Every action I perform, I keep questioning myself. So his answer was, you are on the right path. I was so confused.
So now get up every morning and please try and reflect. I don't know how else to be of any use in this journey to you.
I
I don't
up
know. If you have any further questions on how to reflect, then you all please ask, because I don't know how else to explain this thing.
No, you've done a wonderful job. Wonderful job. And
Thank you for always saying nice things about me. But the fact of the matter is, all students will say that about their teachers, and that's just the way the world works. But the fact is, how much have you all moved forward in reflection is what is important over here.
I think I would say personally need more sessions.
Yeah,
I would agree on that too.
Yeah,
Janki, I for one did not get more clarity. I found that I got more confused because I thought we are reflecting in a way in which there is potential to get more confused than clear. Specifically for me, because we went sentence by sentence, and I found sentence 1 and 2 had a very different outcome in terms of a derivative than what was intended in the subsequent sentences. So I could not find this.
Omkar, that's not the point now. The point now is to just stop and think. Don't try to run before you can walk. Just stop and think.
But the methodology you suggest, I'm saying the methodology. Yeah, but the methodology you suggested is dissecting sentence by sentence and stopping there and thinking and putting sentence 2 and 1 together, whereas 3 and 4 have a very different idea. I'm not getting.
Okay, that's not. If you would like to do it paragraph by paragraph, do it paragraph by paragraph, but then follow the same procedure. Remember what you have to learn from here. If you don't like X methodology, use Y methodology. But the important thing is you please reflect. If you say, no, I don't like it sentence by sentence, that's fine. Who is to interfere with how you reflect? This is entirely your own individualistic thing. But please do the important part, which is establish what does the sentence mean, or what does your paragraph mean? Is this paragraph true? What are the derivations of this paragraph? Follow that, no?
Janki, could I just ask one thing? Like, if each one of us in our reflection this coming week, we take up 2-3 sentences and follow this procedure, if we could read them out in the next class, then you would let us know if we are even on the right track or we've completely gone off. Is it possible?
I mean, anything is possible. You and I have to agree to it. I mean, who else is going to say whether possible or not? It's like Mia Bibi Razi, to kya karega Kazi. But the fact of the matter is, the less help you take, the better. Because how does the child start walking if the mother is always holding the hand? So wherever you're finding a particular difficulty, please reach out to me. Otherwise, please try and do it yourself. That's the only way.
True, but little more guidance, please.
Janki, for the process, can we have another class? For the process.
Process is simple. Take your sentence, paraphrase it, find out true or false, under what conditions true or false, or universally true. What are its derivations, if any? Clear or not?
But Janki ji, the life is not a written text. How do we analyze our real life situations like this?
Don't worry about it. We are still crawling. First you learn It's like do wall practice before you go to fight Federer.
Yeah, that's why we need more guidance from you.
Janki ji, can I ask a question?
Yeah, go ahead.
How do you get this feeling of not being disheartened? And I know you're looking out for a fruit and you're looking out because of which you feed, but somehow it just gives you a feeling that you're nowhere and how you're going to ever reach, or forget reach, even take step one. So a very practical solution on how to get rid of this feeling, because currently right now I'm going through it immense.
Okay, just imagine that there is a mother whose child is not well and the doctor is giving a very bad prognosis. What will the mother do?
Hope.
Is that all she'll do?
And do everything in her capacity.
She'll double her efforts. Suppose that child is showing that it's deterioration and the doctor is saying no good, the mother will double her efforts.
Yes.
Why will she double her efforts?
Because she really wants that.
Yes, correct. So if you feel disheartened, double your efforts. Because if you really want it, you will make sure you get it.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, so then Hari Om everybody. If you have any particular things, then please reach out. Otherwise,
Thank you so much, Janki ji. So
Hari Om,
we
Janki
hope
ji.
to have another session.
Hari Om,
Thank
Janki
you.
ji.